Welcome back. In the previous session, we looked at the first two sections of the growth plan prepared by Sundari. These were marketing and sales and production sections. In this session, we will complete the discussion of the growth plan for her business by looking at people and financial sections. We will also look at the next steps Sundari must take to begin the execution of the growth strategy of selling new products and services to existing customers. We will start with the people section. Here's the first question, which is about additional roles. Growth strategies often require businesses to have additional people for sales and production activities. Sundari will need an additional part-time worker. The primary job of this person is to make school uniforms for the next 3 months. Depending on the response of the school uniforms, Sundari may continue to employ this worker beyond 3 months. The next question is about salaries for the additional roles. Sundari plans to pay a reasonable amount of salary for the part-time role. She has discussed the amount with the person who is happy with the offered compensation. Let's look at the third question of this section, which is about leave policy. This question is important, especially if the entrepreneur is hiring workers for the first time. Businesses need to comply to labor laws such as leave policies. In case of Sundari's business, the new part-time worker will work for 6 hours every day and for 6 days in the week. There will be a weekly off for her, and she will also be entitled to 1 day of paid leave every month. The fourth question is about training needs. Sometimes growing a business requires workers to follow changed or new production and sales processes. In some cases, new equipment may need to be used. In such cases, the entrepreneur must plan to provide basic training to the workers. In Sundari's case, the new worker already knows how to make school uniforms, so no formal training is needed for her. Sundari and the existing full-time worker are already very good at making kurtas for women. This plan is to use these existing skills to make men's ceremonial kurtas. Hence, Sundari does not see the need for a formal training for herself and the worker. The final question talks about the updates to the people plan. It is possible that growth strategy may require the entrepreneur to change existing roles and responsibilities in the business. This could also mean change in salaries, etc. Hence, this question is there to remind the entrepreneur if there are likely to be any such changes. In Sundari's case, there are no other updates to the original people plan of the business. Now that we have looked at the people section of the growth plan, let's turn our attention to the financial section of the growth plan. This also has 5 questions, and we will follow the same process that we followed for the previous sections. The first question is about the revised break-even growth strategies focus on increasing revenues, and this often leads to changes in direct and indirect costs of the business. Hence, it becomes very important for the entrepreneur to not lose focus of profits while trying to get higher revenues. This question is there to remind the entrepreneur that she must not make any losses while working on generating higher revenues. In Sundari's case, there are significant changes in direct and indirect costs. Since she has more than one product, the break-even calculation for her are based on certain assumptions of forecasted sales volumes as seen here. Let's look at the next question of the section, which is about capital. Growing revenues often require additional assets in a business. This needs additional fixed capital. Higher direct and indirect costs usually lead to higher working capital. The purpose behind this question is to ensure that the entrepreneur is fully aware of how much extra capital will she need to grow the business. In Sundari's case, there will be an additional fixed capital needed due to the new equipment, while there is no additional working capital required. The third question is about the sources of additional required capital. To help the business grow, an entrepreneur can either put money from her pocket, which is equity, or take a loan, or sometimes both. Putting equity has an impact on the opportunity cost for the entrepreneur. When a business takes a loan, the indirect costs increase due to interest payments. Loan repayments can also put pressure on cash flows and on working capital in the business. So, an entrepreneur has to decide the source of the capital by keeping in mind these considerations. Sundari is planning to make an equity investment to cover the amounts of required fixed capital. The fourth question talks about forecasted financials. This question in the growth plan ensures that the entrepreneur is able to visualize the impact of the growth strategy on all three financial statements of the business. An entrepreneur should not just focus on revenues, but also on other aspects of financial health of the business, such as costs, cash flows, profits, profitability, and net worth. Hence, we can see the forecasted P and L, which shows the forecasted revenues, the associated costs, and the net profits along with profitability. After looking at the forecasted P and L, let's look at the forecasted cash flow statement. We can see that the business is accumulating cash and has a significantly higher cash balance at the end of the year. This increase is mainly due to higher forecasted cash revenues, which is a healthy sign. Finally, we can see Sundari's forecasted balance sheet. There is an increase in the forecasted net worth compared to the current value. Most of this is coming through an increase in cash and bank balance, which is very healthy. The final question of the section refers to the financial plan. There could be some changes to the financial plan which are not covered by the previous 4 questions. If that is the case, then this question reminds the entrepreneur to revisit the original financial plan and make relevant changes. In Sundari's case, there are no additional changes in the financial plan. We saw that a growth plan is a guide that gives details of what the owners of a business must do to achieve the growth objectives. Once the growth plan is done, an entrepreneur must think about the immediate tasks she must complete. A good way to do that is to start with the marketing and sales section. Identify tasks needed for it and then repeat this process for the remaining 3 sections. Having completed all 4 sections of the growth plan, Sundari is now ready to list a set of tasks she needs to undertake immediately. Let's look at those tasks now. Sundari goes through the 4 sections and comes up with a set of tasks. We can see the list here. She thinks about the sequence in which these tasks need to be done. In her case, she realizes that everything else depends on buying the equipment using equity capital. Hence, she decides to do those tasks immediately. She then goes through the remaining tasks and creates a logical order. Here, we can see the tasks arranged. Sundari is ready to execute the strategy. With this session, we conclude the discussion of the growth strategy of selling new products and services to existing customers. In the next set of sessions, we will explore a growth strategy that involves selling existing products and services in a new market.